Bernice, and welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. I wanted to create a podcast to remind you that skating is for everyone. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking to Adam Blake and learn more about his journey on the ice. So sit back, grab a mug of your favorite beverage, and listen to this episode of On the Ice with Bernice. And remember, everyone is welcome on the ice. Well, I am just so excited because today we have with us the Adam Blake. Adam, welcome.
Hi, wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I normally start off by just asking, who you are, but I want to start a little bit differently with you.
Okay.
One of the things I just really love about you is your hair. I spend a lot of time, we're making my hair work, but what's the story behind your hair?
Behind the hair. Wow. Basically, so I've always loved long hair even as a kid, and I always wanted long hair. And then when I was in school, my parents were more about the short hair. And then when my mom would say like, "Oh, Adam, it's time to get a haircut," and as the years went on, I started to learn how to sort of play the game of when my mom would say, "Adam, it's time for a haircut," I go, "Yeah, okay," and then I just forget to remind her, and then she go, "It's really time for a haircut," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay," and I just wouldn't put up a fuss, and then I started to grow my hair out, and then I joined Disney, and then I had to cut it short for Disney on Ice, and then when I started understudying the role of Ryan, I tried to dye my hair blonde, and that was a disaster.
Oh no.
I tried, yeah, it turned out like a teddy bear or like a Teddy Graham like gold. It was terrible. It was awful. And then when I got off tour and I started what was it? And I wanted to get into the creative sort of vibe. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna grow my hair out. And then later I was like, I'm gonna dye my hair. And so I ended up dyeing my hair. What was it? The stylist what was it? She went with a mermaid blue, which ended up going teal, which was cool. And then it faded into more of a seafoam green, which wasn't quite it. But then I met Natalia, who I've been seeing for. Natalia has been my hairstyle, my colorist and stylist for now maybe I think longer than I've known my wife.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, so I've been going to Natalia for maybe about 8 years now. And but yeah, so we did purple, and then we did blue, and then we did the purple again, and then we alternated blue and pink, and now we've sort of settled on blue and pink on the front. And then my wife actually, this silver right here is what my wife requested that we keep because she loves it, and Natalia loves it too. So Natalia just puts it aside, and then everything gets blue and pink. So yeah,
Well,
that's
I
the
love
story.
it. And I'm so glad to know that because every time I see you, I just go, well, that's just a work of art. It's just you start with your hair and then you get to what you can do on the ice. It's just you're just one big art piece. I just love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, all right. So, who are you and where have you made a place for yourself in the world of skating? And I know that that's a big question for you because you're
It
kind of
is.
everywhere.
All right. Well, so I'm Adam, and my my place in figure skating is a lot of places within the professional world and the amateur world. So, I've as far as the professional world, where I really got my start, I was a principal figure skater for Disney on Ice for 6 years. And then I started moving over into the choreography sort of side of things. And I was assistant choreographer for I think 2 or 3 years. And then I was an ice choreographer for Ringling Brothers Circus. And then I became associate choreographer for Disney on Ice. And then I was also co-choreographer for the Wolfsburg shows, the Wolfsburg Otterstadt shows, and in Germany, which was an amazing job. And then
Wow.
also helped out with worlds and opening ceremonies and national ceremonies and all that. And then competitively, I've been doing a whole lot of work in singles dance, pairs, um, and also a lot of synchro as well. I worked extensively with Hayden Nets, and then a real big love of mine is theater on ice. So I'm the artistic director for the theater on ice program over at the Skating Club of Boston, and so which is fantastic. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I have my hand in all types of what was it? All types of figure skating figure skating facets.
Well,
So
I love it because I think, most of the time, when people think of figure skating, especially if they don't know anything about it, there's just that one track to the Olympics. But, you
right.
know, I think I love your journey because it's not just you're not just involved with that, but you're also involved in more than one journey. And I just
Right.
love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has their own journey and everybody finds their own joy, and to think that one person's path to happiness is the same as somebody else's is like crazy.
It's
So,
ridiculous.
yeah, absolutely. And everybody has their path to happiness. And for some, it might be starting skating at the age of 4 and training and training and training and working hard and, getting up in the morning every day and double run throughs and the thrill of competing. For somebody else, it might be getting on the ice for the first time at age 60 and, finding the joy in, the simple movement of a glide and or the ability to turn backwards or that type of big accomplishment for somebody that has just stepped onto the ice for the first time.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And, that's why I have this podcast.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
Now, before I forget, you said you worked with the Brothers. Don't they do circus stuff?
Yes, so the 146th circus was actually on ice. So we had a floor surface in the middle, and then we had a what was it? We had freestylers, which is a completely different style of skating. So freestylers are actually in hockey skates, and they do this kind of break dancing and parkour on the ice, which is crazy. And then what was it? We also had a group from China, from Harbin, called the Heilongjiang Troop, and they did the craziest things on the ice. I remember they would do this one stunt where they'd take a girl and like she would stand on these hockey gloves and they'd skate around in a circle and they'd yeet her up in the air and she'd do a double backflip and then they'd catch her. And then they would also do three-man highs where like two boys are standing on the shoulders of two boys skating around in a circle, and then they throw the girl up, and then she's standing on the shoulders of the other guys, and they're skating around in a circle, and then they do trampolines on the ice and jump rope on the ice and hat juggling and stilt skating and all that stuff. And from there I learned choreographic Chinese, so that was fun. So
Oh my goodness. I think I'd break my back. I think that would just be so wonderful to see. Oh my goodness.
it was fun. I was also the on ice unicycle coach. I taught
Wait, you know how to do a unicycle?
I do, and I taught the King Charles Troop, which is a renowned unicycling basketball playing troop out of Harlem, and they actually auditioned for Ringling Brothers back in the '80s outside of the stadium, and they have a giant legacy with Ringling Brothers, and I was actually their on ice unicycle coach, so.
I think that would be the coolest thing to put in a LinkedIn bio ever.
Right? It actually is in my LinkedIn bio, I think.
That is just wow. I didn't even know that. See, that's the stuff they don't tell you about on career day.
You
My
wouldn't think it would
goodness.
pop up.
No. Oh, wow. Have you always liked dancing?
Yes, I have. I always loved dancing. I started mainly I started doing work in dance when I was really young. I started dancing at probably a little bit later in my like professional sort of sense. So I was about I'd say I was about like 12 when I started dance, and through modern and also through ballet. And so with ballet, I actually I would secretly dance when I was younger. It's because, my just to not, flood or what was it, poke a hole in my parents' coin purse. So I would basically what I would do was I would sweep floors and wash windows for my ballet classes, and then for my commercial style classes, I would secretly pack a lunch during the day and still ask my parents for lunch money. And I would save up my lunch money from the week, and that's how I pay for my commercial style classes.
That's
And
genius.
yeah, well, you would think that, but I actually recently brought it up with my dad, and oh, they knew. Parents, they know. They know. They so I thought I was being sneaky, but I think they saw the drive, and they saw the determination to actually be willing to make a certain sacrifice, and they also saw, the cleverness of it all. So that's why they never said anything. And I thought I got away with it for years, but no, they knew.
I think most of the time parents are smarter than we give them credit for.
I would agree with that.
Well, what was after that? So you're taking all these secret dance classes behind your
Mhm.
parents' backs, and what did that lead to?
So that led to, well, one thing that was great with that was that led to a very dance heavy ice show that I got into. So I was dancing and skating at the same time, and then from there I never really competed. I like competition really wasn't my route. And I actually started out skating with ISI. I never tested US figure skating until actually pretty recently.
Oh, wow.
And then yeah, and then so then joined High School Musical. So it was a very dance heavy ice show, and from there I joined, and my third weekend, because I was the first one on the ice and the last one to leave the ice. I made sure of that. In the mornings we have this ice called Perfection Ice, where you go in and you practice steps, and it's usually for skaters that are having a difficult time with steps, and like it gives them an opportunity to sort of catch up. But I wanted to make sure each step was perfect, and so I would use that ice. And then later the practice ice was for working on jumps and spins and all that. And I just made it a goal that I was first one on the ice and last one off the ice every day, every single day. And then my third weekend, they made me assistant line captain for the show, which like happens with only some people. There, what was it? There was a skater from Colorado. Her name's Phoebe. That it happened to as well. But yeah. So my third weekend, I was the assistant line captain, and then through touring, I got to take dance classes everywhere. I would find classes in the city I was in. And for instance, like we were in New York City for about 4 weeks, like we're in a nearby city. And so I would take dance classes there, and I would take dance classes in LA and in Houston and in Toronto and Vancouver. And I accidentally joined a dance crew in Panama. And so like that was fun. And, and and I danced in Japan. I've danced in, Europe. It's been great, like being able to dance everywhere.
Hmm. Do you think you, out of all of the dancing, I guess all over the world, is there
Hmm.
one country where you just said, "Wow," like I was not expecting it, like you weren't expecting it to be a certain way?
Oh, when I accidentally joined a dance crew, that was funny.
Tell me
So
about
the
that. How does that even happen?
well, so I was so we were at the hotel, and I looked outside my window and I saw people practice using the window as like a mirror as they were practicing like the combination, and I was like, oh my gosh, I found a class. I didn't even have to go online. I didn't have to like go on a website in Spanish and find out like where classes were like via Google Translate. And so I came down the stair, or like I went outside the hotel and I found that little dance studio, and everybody was sort of leaving, and then there was only like a group of people that were inside the dance studio, and in whatever broken Spanish I could muster, I said like, can I dance here? And they were like, all right, well, if you want to dance, show us that you can dance. And I was like, I've never had to audition for a class before, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I put something on and I start freestyling, and they were excited about it and they loved it, and I was like, okay, cool. And then so we started working on choreo, and like a combination, I thought. And then all of a sudden, like the choreographer is putting us into a formation and putting us into a line, and then all of a sudden, I'm being lifted up into the air, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't think they understand my commitment level. And so they were blocking me into numbers, and so it was crazy. And then but I don't think they understood that I don't think I understood what I signed up for, and I think there was a miscommunication because I did have to leave in 2 weeks, and I don't think that it was fully understood from either side of like what I was getting myself into and what they thought I signed up for. So it was a funny little mishap, but yeah, I accidentally joined a Panamanian dance crew.
Oh
So
my goodness. But
yeah.
what an adventure. I mean, I'm sure you were, when you were getting lifted in the air, just like not what
Yeah,
you
no,
thought
it
was
was
gonna
great. Like
happen.
literally, a guy just put his head between my legs and just stood up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And so, yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness. And I guess, in doing all those dance classes, I didn't even think about this when you were saying it. There's a language barrier too. So you had to
there
figure
was.
out how to, I guess, especially in Japan. Like, I mean, you might know Japanese, I don't know, but that would be an extra challenge.
Yeah, so I know a little bit of Japanese, but I don't think enough to fully understand what the concepts were. I do speak German, but I don't, and my mother's Japanese, and so I speak a little bit of Japanese, but not enough to understand like in-depth concepts.
Mm.
Spanish was really funny. It's because the way that they would count us in was really cool, and I could sort of like get sort of the gist of everything. But I sort of learned from there. I am able to choreograph in different languages. Knowing the term for left and right, and knowing the term for up and down. And in Chinese, I can only count to 8, but that's for choreography. I think that's really all you need. And so, but yeah, so, but yeah, no, yeah, it was a fun experience with that language barrier, because you really have to look, and you have to sort of understand some sort of context
Mm.
of it. Yeah, it kind of there was a really fun experience when I was out, when I was on tour in Spain, um and there was a tour of the Sagrada Familia, which is one of Gaudi's like masterpieces that he never finished, and they were out of English tours, and so I took a tour in Spanish, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, where there was a whole thing where they were talking about how like the what was it, where the sun rises is like the murals are like the birth of Christ, and like when it sets, it's like the passion, like that's where the sun is on the passion. And then and where the columns are supposed to be made as trees, and like they said arbor, and I was like, I did arbor to trees, that makes trees, like, oh, there are trees, like that sort of a thing. So I was able to put together context clues, and it was the coolest thing.
Wow. Well, it sounds to me you're the type of person who kind of likes to figure out the different rules and how to work and play with them, and
Yeah.
especially with languages, but also in you doing all these different things within the skating world, because
Mhm.
synchro has different rules from theater,
Yep.
has different rules from the singles and the pairs and all that stuff. So that just sounds fun. How do you go about, I guess figuring out how to do that?
I do like to I feel like in order to break rules, you sort of have to understand them. So
Mm,
you have to have a good grasp of what the game is and what the and understanding how to help break the rules, you know. Um, and so it's one of those where, you find out how the game is supposed to be played, and then you figure out what rules should be played with and should be bent, like sometimes there are certain things that that you want to like there's certain classical things that you want to respect, like for instance, like with skating, I will always respect the edge, I will always respect the lean, I will always respect the skating of it all. But but why not try something different? Why not try a different position here, or a different way of moving, or a different quirky way to turn, or the blade is such a complex thing, and the boot is such a complex thing, and interacting with the ice can be so intimate and so cool. But as long as I feel like as long as you utilize the ice as a means of creating something that defies gravity and defies what humans are supposed to be doing,
mm,
then you're on the right track. It's because I remember Tamara Kuchiki told me once that, you know, skaters wish they were dancers, but dancers wish they were skaters.
mm.
And so one of my biggest things is, how do I make a dancer jealous, like on the ice? Like how do I put something on the ice that makes a dancer wish, oh my God, I wish I could move like that, or I wish I could move through space in that way. So yeah, that's a fun way to look at it.
That was just beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to start thinking about that when I'm skating. Of,
Nice.
how do I make those dancers jealous?
Yeah.
Hmm. All right, and I guess also that this, playing around with the rules in a sense can be applied to people, because you're working with so many different people. In a sense,
Yeah.
I feel like when you walk into a new place, they're figuring you out and you're figuring them out. So how do you go about doing that?
That's a really wonderful question. It's because it really um it really that question really dives into the core of what I believe as far as like being an artist. And an artist first and foremost is a collaborator. And collaborator in regards the to what the medium is and what the situation calls for a lot of things. Like there are things that our artists can't control. Artists can't control certain aspects of the medium. And with the medium being not only ice, but with actual humans, like with actual people with brains and thoughts and feelings, it's for me, nothing is more beautiful and nothing is more real and visceral than somebody completely believing the work that they are performing. Like nothing is better than that, of them completely giving themselves to the work. And for me, that can't happen unless I help them believe it, or they are on board um, with what the art is trying to do. I like to sort of create a language to help bring a side of that skater or group of skaters or people out, and to be able to connect with an audience and with a judge, and in a way give create the best results possible, in maybe results, but also with, did you feel something, and did you get it, did you understand something, did you feel a certain way, or and the only way that that happens is if the person that is performing it, or the people that are performing it, understand and believe the truth that they're skating.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I know I always, you know, not just love watching, but try to go back and rewatch those programs that you can tell what it's about and it emotionally
Yeah.
connects to you.
Mhm.
I just love watching those, and
Yeah.
just to be able to be a part of that process is just so wonderful.
Oh, it's an honor. It's like to be able to have somebody trust you to one of their to be so vulnerable, to be so exposed. It's really a something that I take very seriously, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And I'm always just so um careful with how we, I like to make sure that the people that I'm working with feel safe,
Mm.
that they always feel safe to work with me, and that they feel that their opinion is valid, and that their input is valid, and what they want to do is valid. And sometimes it might not be like, sometimes there'll be a suggestion that'll be like, well, in order for this to happen, we actually might need to change it. But what I'll do is I'll take your suggestion into consideration, and we might put it in later, or, oh, that's a great suggestion, let's do it. Or maybe we'll go along those lines because that's where you want to go, but let's try it this way,
Mm.
and find a way to collaborate rather than being like, no, this is, like I don't like to do that. I like to make sure that it's a it's a collaboration, and it's a consensual piece of work.
Mm. Yeah, and that sounds very challenging, but it sounds like a very good work.
I mean, when it comes together and when it's beautiful,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, I'm not the one out there. Well, unless it's senior theater, but like, I'm not usually the one out there doing it. It's somebody else, and there has to be truth there, and otherwise, it's just moves to music, you know.
Yeah. Although I will say there are times I've seen you on the sidelines as a coach or, choreographer. Sometimes I find myself watching you do the choreography from the side instead of the skating. Because
I
you're
try to
just
hide. I
you do. I know that, but
I try to hide.
you're doing it right there with them. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of those where I I get really into it. It's like, and the thing is that it doesn't happen if it's not, if the kids aren't, that is a actual thing that's happening. Like, that is happening in real time with the kids. Like, I'm doing it because that's what they're giving me. Like, they're giving me that energy, and I'm giving it back to them. And I, like, when we lock eyes, like when I lock eyes with the skaters that's out there, they tell me that we are here. We're together, and it's just such a, oh God, I love connecting with my kids that way. It's just it's the best feeling. It's because each one of them is locking eyes, and we just it's an experience, and I love it. God, I love my theater kids so much.
Well, the stuff that you guys do and create on the ice is just so much fun to watch. So it makes sense. Now, would you say that, connecting with people, is that the thing that excites you most about, dancing and skating?
I think so. I would have to say that. There's nothing. I remember when I was younger, I thought to myself that there's nothing cooler than watching a group of people move together and move in one way, or move in unity, it's because you don't see lines, you don't see differences, you see everybody is the same. And there's actually a beautiful choreographer and a beautiful company called Frantic Assembly, created by Scott Graham and Stephen Hoggett. And they created a company that's very actually anti-dance, and it's a theater-based movement company out of the UK. And their movement style is so accessible. They choreograph, or Stephen Hoggett choreographed Once, which is a cast of very different types of movers and very different types of body types, and types of, mobility, and types of, you know dance related training, and they're all able to sort of move together, and they're able to, be as one, and like, it was gorgeous to watch. And that's a company that I'm very, very fond of, and I would like to work with in the future more. So
Well, that anti-dance, that does sound interesting.
yeah, yeah, they're very anti-dance, and they're not really like a 5, 6, 7, 8 company. It's more of a, what is the impetus for the movement? Why are you doing this? And theater is all about why. Like, why is, like, this person's hand here because of this? So I'm going to move over this way because my character is wanting to do this, or or finding meaning within movement, which is really cool too.
Absolutely. Well, what's on the horizon? What's next for Adam Blake?
Um, I don't know. I mean, more like, I mean, I would love to I'd love to have programs at the Olympics. I would love to, which I don't think is far off. It's working, like Max is working real hard, and that's a goal. And we're trying really, really hard, and he's killing it. More theater, of course. I would love to get more into have my own Disney show, or have my own holiday show. I would love to break into TV, and also my wife and I do have plans to move to the West End, or not to the West End, but to the UK. And I would love to work on the West End, and get more involved with Frantic Assembly. And yeah, so staging, choreo, riding a motorcycle around the UK. So yeah,
Oh my
that's the
goodness.
vibe.
And I will say, I don't think I told you this, but those wedding pictures you had with your wife on the
Oh,
motorcycle were my favorite things ever.
thank you.
In my younger days, I wish I had known it was even possible to get a photo like that. It's just beautiful.
Our photographer, Lindsay Michelle, she was incredible. Like, we were on the motorcycle, and she would literally be out of the sunroof taking photos, just like standing on the back seat with her body full on through the moonroof, while her assistant was driving her. It was absolutely crazy. We owe that day to Lindsay. It was amazing.
Well, it absolutely looked amazing. Well, Adam, I got one last question for you, and that is, who do you know that I should interview next?
Oh, okay. A couple of people. What was it? If you're in the mood for showcase, Crystal Rose Guerrera is amazing. She is one of the queens of showcase. She's been building a program up for the past few years, and her program is absolutely incredible. And she has become a powerhouse in national showcase, and she is just absolutely incredible. Another one would be Nico Cohen. They are they are one of the leading skaters that is so vocal with their involvement in the trans community, and helping out with visibility in that skating can be completely diverse and accepting of people who they are. And they're also just an absolutely incredible costume designer. So they just came out with their new company, and so it's been really, really cool to watch them grow and flourish. Another one, Lee Chandler, who is the the head coach for Lexats and Hayden Select. He's another great one. There's so many great people. If you want a really, really great, like a legend in the show world, Karen Kresge, that's a great one. Out of the West Coast, Karen Kresge is just an absolute legend in the show world. Or also, you could do Richard Dwyer, who is 80. He's 86, and he still does axles.
Yeah, I met him last year at the showcase competition, and he's just wonderful.
he is one of the sweetest people, just absolute
Absolutely.
sweetest. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's so many people. I mean, I could go on of
Well,
who
and
to
I,
interview.
because you've done, like everybody in the skating world, but I'll have my manager Anna message you about that. I have messaged. I love Crystal Rose. I met her at the showcase, and we did an episode together about showcase because, I mean, the
Amazing.
stuff that her kids do is just wonderful.
Incredible. And I'm lucky enough that I get to see them like once a year. So I'll go out to LA and I get to see them and she'll have a lift and I was like, "Can you do a backflip out of it?" And then she'll send me a video later of them doing a backflip out of it. And so I love seeing the kids and it's really fun. And so whenever I go to a national showcase sort of competition, I'm sort of Team Culver City. So
Well, yeah, I mean, you almost cannot. You just have to be because they're just so
yeah.
fun to watch, and that emotion
Oh,
we were talking
absolutely.
about, they got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Oh,
Adam, thank you so much for doing this interview today. It's just been so delightful to talk to you and get to know a little bit about you and your journey in the world of skating. So thank you.
thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, no, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, and hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Yay.
All right, well, bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Ice with Bernice. On today's episode, we talked with Adam Blake and learned more about his fascinating life and his journey on the ice. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you like, comment, and subscribe to my podcast? Maybe even share it with a friend? This really helps young whippersnapper podcasts like me get going. This episode was researched and produced by Anna Blankenship and hosted by me, Bernice. And remember, everyone is welcome on the ice.